I landed here in 1995. This was my Plymouth Rock. I landed here from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And if you've ever been to Baton Rouge, you probably noticed three things. It's the state capital, there's a couple universities, and then it's lined with chemical refineries. So my view of the world was I could be a politician, I could be an educator, I could be a chemical engineer. So I kind of cruised through high school. I didn't have to kind of work that hard, and I had some natural abilities that would get me there, and then I landed at Morehouse. Has anyone ever seen this T-shirt? I thought that was the answer. I thought lazy but talented was the answer, and I got here and I recognized the difference. I recognized that it's a bad T-shirt and it's a horrible way to live life. I started in a summer program, and I was failing every class. I remember being on the phone with my mother. So yeah, when you come get me at the end, you might want to come in the truck. We might have to take this stuff back. It was so bad that I remember a day walking into my dorm, and my roommate was sitting down studying, and I was, oh, so we have a test tonight? He said, no. I said, oh, what time is it tomorrow? He said, no. I said, what are you doing? I did not understand the concept that you would actually study and read and do that throughout the term to actually absorb the information and learn it. I thought studying or cramming was this thing that you did on a 12-hour period immediately preceding a test. And so I had to learn, and it was then that I learned this. I learned that talent is insufficient, preparation is required, but hard work is actually the differentiator. I got better. Morehouse made me better. I survived. Well, I did a little bit. I graduated in 3 years with a 3.9 in computer science and math. So I got better. But then I landed at Georgia Tech. And there I was a minority, not because I was African American, but because I was American. All right, I'm in a PhD program in computer science, and I'm there with all my colleagues from India and Asia and Europe. And their culture and their educational system equipped them with a work ethic and a foundation that was better. So I had to figure out again if I had it in me to step up and to survive. And it was the environment there was we'd sit in a cube and you would have a stack of research papers this high and a 2-liter of Mountain Dew. And you'd say, I'll see you in the morning. And that would be the drive of things. And then I caught the startup bug, and I joined a company called Cipher Trust, and I became CTO there, and I was kind of doing that at the same time that I was doing my PhD work. And at the startup, they didn't really know or care that I was still working on my PhD, and the PhD advisor didn't really know or care that I was, and so I was living these two parallel lives. And it was a social low point of my life. I've been afforded the opportunity to make up for it ever since. But you know, what I learned there at Georgia Tech was I was in this globally diverse competitive situation. And it turns out that was the perfect practice ground for building startups. Because building startups is a global competition. I like to say that startups are like the Olympics, not the Little League. Right? In the Olympics, there's one gold medal, and everybody on earth wants it just as bad as you do. It's not the Little League where you get a trophy for showing up or because you're the best in your neighborhood, right? So it's not a matter of being kind of the best entrepreneur on this block or in this city or being the best black entrepreneur or the best female entrepreneur. It's about being the best entrepreneur, period. And I believe that anything less than that is low aim. And as our beloved Benjamin May said, low aim is sin. So if you're going to be the best in building startups, the fundamental language that we speak in this world is programming and coding. Right? So do you code? Are you nice? Right? I've never met someone that wants to be a basketball player that doesn't dribble, or someone that wants to be a rapper that doesn't rap. And so we have to pay attention to, are we really the best at the fundamental language that makes this world go around? Right? And so since this is the Olympics, you also have to think about how you're building your dream team. Right? So if you want to go build a startup, you want to take something that doesn't exist and make it real and make it exist, it's hard, it's challenging, it is almost impossible. So who do you want on your side making that happen? You know, oftentimes people take the easy route of, I'm going to get my friends and my roommates, my relatives. You need to think of this like fantasy football. If you could build your perfect team, who would it be? And then how do you go out and get them? How do you go out and convince them to join you in your quest? Right? Because if you can't convince them, right? And then you're not going to then be able to convince a customer. If you can't convince a customer, you're not going to then be able to convince an investor. And I see so many people chasing it in the wrong order, right? They haven't convinced themselves yet, and they want to go convince an investor. So they're looking for validation when they don't yet have conviction. Right? So that order, you have to convince yourself, then you have to convince a teammate, then you can convince a customer, then you can convince an investor to fuel your growth. Right? Then the order is important. And you think about how much time you have to spend convincing people. Think about a football coach in college. You spend half your time on the field competing during the season. You spend all the off season, half of your time recruiting people to join your team. So as a CEO at a startup, it's a similar balance of you have to convince people to join you in your quest of making your dream a reality. So to convince these people and to convince yourself, you have to be a little bit crazy, right? Because building a startup is hard. Like, let's not kid about it. It is hard. It is difficult. It is a grind. It is multiple years. You have to be a little bit crazy, right? And some people think they can cheat the hard by going small. Oftentimes people say, oh, I don't want to do that. I'll do this little startup. My view is it's a little bit counterintuitive, but oftentimes it's easier to chase a big vision than to chase a small one, right? Because if you want to go get that dream team, you want to get the biggest, brightest minds in the world, they don't want to work on your little itty-bitty problem. They want to change the world. If you want to go get investors, they don't want to go after your little itty-bitty market. They want to go after huge markets. So some people often take this wrong turn of thinking you could take a shortcut and aim small because it's somehow easier, but you get the opposite effect. Now, if you think about going big, that often suggests more risk. Like, going big is more risk. Like, if you think of the analogy of a home run, that typically means it's either success or failure. Success or failure is binary. You either hit it out of the park or you did. I want to go big, but I don't like those odds. Right? So I want the speed of a spaceship, but the sturdiness of an armored vehicle. I want some balance in between. And so we've been using this strategy that I call a home run by one base at a time. And the point is, how can I have a vision that is large that I'm running after, but I've built the strategy of the company around kind of one phase at a time. I get to first base, and we're this as a company. And the next phase of the company is this, and the next phase is this. So I still have more certainty around success, but still an opportunity for breakout success. So to even make an attempt at a home run, you have to be running after a valuable problem. I said valuable, right? So I didn't say hard, I didn't say complex, I didn't say NP complete. A valuable problem, which is simple. It means one that people are willing to pay you to have solved, or at least willing to spend their time to use your product. And it seems obvious, but a lot of people make this mistake. I've made this mistake. At our first company, Cipher Trust, we built this thing, this email security thing, and we thought people would like it, and it was cool, and it was hard, and we took it out to people, and they didn't care. So we sat around, and we were twiddling our thumbs for about a year and a half. I got pretty good at foosball during that time. But we then listened to customers, and we figured out what they cared about. Then we built something they wanted to buy, and we got a customer. And then we got another one, and another one. Over the course of 6 years, we had 5,000 customers in 40 countries, including a third of the Fortune 500. And then in 2006, that company was acquired. So we learned a lot in that process. A lot of what we learned is there aren't any rules that are defined. There's no cookbook or recipe book. You are figuring it out and creating it as you go. Right? And so to do this and to be successful in this world where there are no defined boundaries, you have to be bold. You have to have the audacity to define your own rules. Right? And so if you think about that, Peter Drucker said it this way. He said the best way to predict the future, create it. Right? Another famed writer goes by the moniker of Jay-Z. He touched on the same topic. If you look at his body of work, he touched on the same topic. And the way that he said is, all right, but I'm different. I can't base what I'm going to be off of what everybody isn't. And the point is you have to be bold. You have to have the audacity to go define your own rules. So that was Cipher Trust. And then after that, in 2008, we thought we learned a lot, and we said, okay, let's go do it again. And we did a company called PureWire. And it was going to secure web services in the cloud because everybody's getting iPhones and iPads. And we got the team together again, and we went after a valuable problem. We had a dream team. We did everything right. We were growing. We were receiving awards. And then this happened. Stock market, 2008, 2009. Anybody? Don't have too bad of a flashback. The domestic equity markets lost about 40% of the market capitalization in a 6-month period, which led to this trend in venture capital. LPs couldn't commit to their capital calls. GPs couldn't invest in new investments. New investments plummeted by 80% year over year. It was the worst 2 quarters in the last 2 decades to raise money. I had the luck of landing in the middle of it. That's when I learned the lesson of external forces, right? Things that were outside of your control, and also, what is your character underneath and how do you react to those? So we had 40 employees at this time, and we did everything we were supposed to do, including spending all the money. So we had 40 employees, which meant 40 families that were dependent on us to pay their bills, keep their lights on, feed their kids. And so I had to look at my co-founder, Mike, and we had to decide, did we still have that conviction? Did we still believe or not? And nowadays, there's a mantra in startups of fail fast. And I think many people misinterpret that and take fail fast as an excuse to quit prematurely, right? And my view is you have to just refuse to lose. You have to decide that you're going to just will this thing to success. Right? There's a gentleman by the name of Naval Ravikant. He founded AngelList. If you don't know AngelList, you should be on there. But he says it this way. He says startups don't die when their founders, when the company runs out of money. Startups die when their founders run out of energy. Right? The late, great Steve Jobs said it a similar way. He said he was convinced that half of what separated successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones was just pure perseverance. So we kept going. We kept going. We had 40 families depending on us. Payroll was due on Friday. The money had to be in the bank on Thursday. On Wednesday, I called my banker. I wired my half, handed it to Mike. He wired his half. 40 families were dependent on us, and we believed. 2 weeks later, we did it again. 2 weeks later, we did it again. This went on for months because we were still pushing. I remember my banker calling me and said, "Paul, I like you. I really hope this works out so we have an opportunity to keep working together." And so we went what people would call in poker all in. And it worked out. A few months later, the acquisition offers started to roll in, and we had a successful exit. So then a year after that, I had a chance to do it again. I received a phone call from a professor and a PhD student at Georgia Tech. And he walked in, and when he walked into me, in his left hand, he had a research paper that he wrote. In his right hand, he had a job offer for a big company on the West Coast. And he was facing what I've come to call the dreamer's dilemma. Right? Are you going to take the risk of chasing your dream, or are you going to take the safety of working on someone else's? So we partnered, and I worked with him, and he's VJ. He's now the CEO of Pindrop Security, which is one of the hottest InfoSec startups in the country. A year after that, I had the opportunity to do it again. I met a gentleman named Barry, an African-American gentleman. When I walked in the room, he had this contraption he made in his mother's garage with a hacksaw and duct tape. But you press a button on the app, and it made a cocktail. I saw many of you trying them last night. And so I went up to Barry, and my first thing, I had my consumer hat on. I said, "Hey, I need to buy one of these for my basement." He said, "Oh, it's not for sale." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, I'm going to make 2 or 3 of them and just rent them out." I said, "Why don't you make thousands of them?" So Barry and I sat down the next day, and we talked about home runs and rocket ships, and we partnered, and we created what's now Monsieur. And I love that example, right? Because we're here talking about diversity and technology, and here we are, we're talking about an African-American inventor, an African-American CEO, African-American angel investors. Right? And then we partnered with world-class people from all over the place, other engineers, other investors, other VCs. But here you are with that background going after a large problem with innovative technology. And I love that, right? I love that so much that I've decided I want to spend more of my time doing that. I want to spend more of my time working with people and saying, how do I touch more people? How do I solve more problems? How do I help build more meaningful companies? If I spend more time with college students around town, I realize that the definition of success has changed, right? It's no longer, how can I go to college and get a job? It's how can I go to college and create a job, right? And so to do that, I have to be able to work with people to give them the courage to go chase their dream, but also the wisdom to make it happen, right? It's the courage and the wisdom, because I believe that motivation without that mentorship is just an empty vessel and only looks good on the shelf. Right, so how do you tie those things together? So the thing that I love the most about software and technology, right, it is a near pure translation from human thought to something of value. Right, you could dream something up. You could just make it up. You can get on a whiteboard, and then you could tell a computer what to do, and it does it for you. Now you're solving a problem. You created something that's worth a lot. There's not many places in life where you get that opportunity. Maybe painters, maybe musicians, but to go purely from human thought to something of value. No raw materials, no land, no lumber, no oil, no steel, none of the things that have traditionally separated the haves from the have-nots. It's creating a new wave of wealth creation like this country has never seen. If you don't believe me, look at the Forbes list. There's 20 people on the Forbes list under the age of 45. 13 of them, 2/3 of them created their wealth in technology. Created a new wave of wealth creation like we've never seen before. The beautiful thing for this community is writing software, it's an art. Building products is an art. And we're creative people, right? And so as technology becomes more and more a part of our everyday lives, then culture more so drives the future of technology, right? And the same impact that African American culture right now has on global culture would translate to that impact African American culture having on the future of technology, right? So the same creativity and the same culture that created jazz, right? That created bebop, that created everything to the Shimoni dance, right? That same culture and creativity is going to create a billion-dollar technology company, is going to create another billion-dollar technology company and another. Right, so now that these barriers of this kind of prior multi-generational wealth is gone, and our creativity can actually just directly create value, I think this is the closest thing to equal opportunity that this country has ever had. So we live in a point in time when anybody from anywhere in the world with any background has a chance. A chance. Now you have to take that chance, and you have to meet that chance. You have to meet it with passion. You have to meet it with preparation, and you have to meet it with perseverance. And it's not easy, it's hard, but it is absolutely possible. So I think we should just do it. I think we should go and make something from nothing. Thank you.